Every subsequent dose has to be bigger. I mean, that's what
Hmm.
we learned, right? Even the sort of post-COVID stimuluses were orders of magnitude bigger than the financial crisis. And I would argue that the liquidity crunch in the financial crisis was more fundamental than it was even in the COVID response. So you're seeing we have to do more and more just to tread water. Yeah, eventually I do think it breaks. And as you said, yeah, country's been around for 250 years. Half the debt's been built in the last 10 years. Those are scary stats.
Yeah, it's part of it too is you feel like, again, this is where I go with like the zoom out thing. Um, we talked about the summer of accumulation, right? Like you've talked about that a lot over the last 6 months. Hopefully, people are stacking Sats and loading up because this is the world we're entering. Where again, you zoom out and you see that they're in. The reason that I think, Matt, you probably say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I say it. I think a lot of people out there that in that hard money camp will say, the sound money camp really is that we're in the exponential debt phase, and that's why that therefore these things will naturally have to go up in at least a nominal price or probably in value as well, like Bitcoin or whatever it is, because they have to keep printing. So I mean, I would imagine you share that sentiment. But it's really based off of, hey, they have to keep printing more exponentially. That's why the price of these other assets, hard assets, will go up.
It, I mean, it's not just me and you. It's
Yeah.
Ray Dalio and others. It's unfortunately the math points in that direction, and there's just no sign of it reversing. And the question is, when does it really start to matter? But I think if you're looking at the price of Bitcoin over the last 10 years, or looking at the price of gold over the last 4 years, it's hard to escape the idea that it's starting to really matter. And the question is, how fast does that cycle and compound? I think it will be pretty fast. But I think both of those, as our silver, as our base metals, as indeed our equity valuations and other things, are sort of screaming all the same thing in unison.
Mhm.
That underneath this is that measuring stick losing value against assets in significant ways.
You had just talked to, and I mentioned that you were, just on another pod recently, Milk Road, and you and then you had a post about it again, just talking about your latest report, Bitwise's latest report. And again, I mentioned this summer of accumulation, and we're in this accumulation phase where again these prices are down, so it's time to continue stacking. And we've talked about the $200,000 call before the end of the year, and there's still a couple months left. So it's anybody's guess. Where are your thoughts right now? We joked about did Matt get it wrong, or people got it wrong? There's been calls all over the place. There's been the Peter Schiff say it's going to 20,000. Dr. Jeff said 475. I mean, there's Samson Mouse said, hey, we're going to 1 million. I mean, there's been a litany of calls on what's going to actually happen, and that's the beauty of it is, as we can see, no one knows. All we can do is take what we have in front of us and give our best guess, educated guess. So what are you seeing right now? We have prices are flat. I think Bitcoin's the same price as like when Trump got inaugurated, pretty much right now. So people are in this
Yeah.
weird malaise right now. Like, what are you guys seeing just from a top down 100,000 foot view?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is continued demand. So the audience we serve, primarily professional investors, financial advisors, family offices, et cetera, institutions, sovereign wealth funds, there is persistent buying. And you see that in ETFs. Bitcoin ETFs, despite the pullback, despite the rocky October we've had, have still pulled in about $4.3 billion. It could still be a record month for ETF inflows this year, the best month ever if we get a strong uptick in the last week or so. So I think the institutional bid for crypto is just persistent and not going away. That's what I hear in my meetings. That's what we see in the flows in our funds. That's what we see in the flow in our competitors' funds. And that to me is the overwhelming story. Institutions wanting exposure. The question is, why hasn't the price reacted to that more? And I think that's a reasonable question to ask. My gut tells me I mean, I will say we haven't revised our price forecast.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't changed from saying we think it could still get to 200K. Obviously, that would be an extraordinarily move. And even I think maybe it won't fully get there, but I think it's going to move directionally in that way because all the trends that would drive it there are in place. Regulation is still positive, institutional demand is still positive. I think there is just this wall of existing holders who have been willing to sell and have kept the price down. But I think we'll close the year. I think we have new all-time highs ahead of us before the close of the year. I think we'll make a run up towards 150 and then possibly beyond. And again, we haven't revised the $200,000 target because I still think there's a world where that's possible. Maybe it's not the base case, but I certainly think it's possible. We can see end of year melt ups. We've seen them before. I think we could see them again.
Yeah, I mean, we've had multiple last couple months of the year. I think in these parts of the cycle, 10x moves. It's happened multiple times, and that's where it's not to say it again, but it's only a 2x or less than a 2x from here would be a $200,000. So I think that sometimes we again, zooming out, we've said this multiple times already, zooming out. Are you seeing a rotation out of, maybe some of like the whales, some of the bigger holders moving into the treasury companies? Is that why maybe there's some more of this selling than normal? I mean, what are you seeing on that end?
Yeah, I think we've seen a few things. So one is you've seen long-term holders sell assets. That's just objectively true in the data. And I think that still anchors around the $100,000 price mark, which as a reminder, if you look at sort of platforms like River and others, their two primary limit orders are at 100K-ish and $1 million. So I think those are two significant sell walls where existing holders are willing to sell. And I think the primary thing is it's just taken longer than we've expected to work through that. I do think there's been some rotation into digital asset treasuries. I think there's been some rotation into ETH and Solana and other smaller assets. But mostly, I just think that it's the $100,000 price target is probably the most important price level since we crossed $100. And so it's taking some time to work through the gravity of that price and be released to the upside. I continue to think at some point, if we wear through the sell wall in and around 100K and get release, I think there's an air pocket up above. I think we could run up relatively quickly, but I've been surprised at how long it would take. I would share one note from gold, which I think I talked about a little bit on the Milk Road podcast. Everyone's saying gold is ripping. It's gone from $3,000 to $4,000 based on central bank buying. And that is true. But the other piece that is true is the central bank started buying in 2022 when the US seized Russia's assets. You saw central bank purchases double that year, and then they've stayed the same for 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. The interesting thing about that is it's only in 2025 that the price has really skyrocketed. And so I think what that tells you is that central bank demand had to wear through people who were willing to sell at lower levels before it exhausted that supply and the price took off. I think that may be a lesson for Bitcoin if we continue to see these flows into ETFs. Eventually, we'll wear through that supply. But yeah, we haven't yet. But as I said, we're not revising our target yet.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.